So you're building a website for your synagogue or your school or your educational program. What's the most important thing to remember? Well, for me, it's that's not all about me. Hey everyone, David Paskin here, your Torah Tech Guy, as always, bringing you some great tech for your great Torah. So today is more of a therapy session for me than it is anything else. I have been building a couple of websites lately. I use Wix. Wix, sorry, I had to press the button. I use Wix to build my websites. And I was building a couple of websites for some programs that I'm starting in the fall. And I was in a training and I learned something kind of important. And rather than me just tell you about it, I'd like to actually show it to you if that's okay. So this is the website that I'm building. I can make that a little bigger. There we go. So this is the website for something called Club Sinai. This is the new version of it. But when I started, this was at the top. So let me just back up. So I was searching for kind of what is the core value, right? What is this program all about for us? And I decided it was about service. We wanted to serve our students, our teachers, our families, our temple, and our community. Okay, that's fine. And then I wrote this nice stuff up about how we serve each of those different constituencies. But in the training, what I learned is that this is all for me. And it's important because in some ways, it's like a vision statement, right? It's going to guide how we behave, how we serve these different people, how we interact with them. That kind of always remembering that service is at the core. But what I realized in this training is that the families who are enrolling in this program don't care about this. I mean, some of them may, some of them might want to read it, but this is really not the most important thing for them. The most important thing for them is the what, where, who, why, when. And so in revamping this website, I decided that needs to be the very first thing that people see. What are we doing? We're providing premium after-school care. How many days a week are we doing it? 2, 3, 4, 5. What are the times? There. Where are we doing it? Temple Sinai. What are the ages? It's all there. And then take action. Click here to register. Now, if they want to dive deeper, they can scroll down and they can learn more about it, or they can look at the schedule or transportation, all that other stuff. But the takeaway for me, or the important thing that I learned is that, let me just speak for myself. The way my thought process works, I'm a visual learner. And so when I have an idea, I create something. I make a logo or I make a website or something, and often it changes a million times before I actually put it out. Or sometimes I put it out and then it changes. But when I'm doing that, a lot of the information that I include, like for example on the website, is information for me. It's my vision, it's my values, it's the values of the organization or the program, but it's the information that I'm putting together sounds really great, and it uses the right catchphrases, and it sounds that some expert wrote it, but that's not what's important to the people that I'm trying to reach. What's important to them is the what, why, who, when, why, where. What, when, you get it. Those things. I think that a lot of our websites, synagogue websites, school websites, are all about what can you, the audience, do for me, right? So here's what I'm about. Here's what my program is all about. And now you need to scroll through to find the information you want, or you need to click here, or you need to do that, instead of us creating websites that are for our audiences, that give them what they want, so they don't have to go searching for it. I can't tell you the number of times that I've rejiggered the navigation on my websites to try and make it easier for people to navigate. It's not easy work to do. It can be really challenging to do good navigation, and I don't think that I've actually figured it all out. But what I have figured out is that the stuff that's important to me, the value statements, the mission and vision, all of that stuff, is not nearly as important to my audience as it is to me. It's important for how I'm going to run my program or run my class or sort of manage or administer my synagogue, my temple, my church, whatever it is. But what my audience wants to know is, where are you? How can I get involved? Is this for me? When can I come? How do I get there? Things like that. Simple things like that. I remember walking into a synagogue once. I was there interviewing for a job, and I walked in, and I won't tell you the whole story, but I had to go to the restroom. And I walked in, and there was no signage. I could not find the bathrooms. It was terrible. It was a terrible experience. I had to ask someone where the restrooms were. That isn't the worst thing in the world, but if we want to create forward-facing representations of ourselves, either physically through signage or through a website digitally, shouldn't we be paying attention to what our audiences may need or may be looking for? So when you're crafting your website, it's nice to have a beautiful big picture up at the top. It's wonderful to have your mission vision. By the way, I always search on a temple's website for their vision or their mission. I want to know what is animating the synagogue. But for your normal Joe Schmo, what they want to know is this a community that I'll find myself in? That is to say, they're people with similar interests, same ages, same backgrounds, things like that. What's going on? How can I participate? And if I have questions, this is maybe the most important part. If I have questions, is there a way for me to reach out? I can't stand websites that list staff members and there's no way to reach them individually. Don't just give me a contact form. That's a great start. But if you have a lot of members of your organization, link to them. Give me their email address. That's what would be really helpful to me. So the challenge of always crafting a website or whatever forward-facing digital media we're doing, whether it's a social media post or an email, whatever it is, not to focus on what I want or what's important to me or what I'm thinking about, but instead to think from the perspective of our audience. And in fact, what I would suggest is ask someone who doesn't know anything about you or your program, ask them to look at what you've created. Are they able to find what they need? And then have them tell you what those things are. If you can't figure it out on your own, you've got to ask someone to help to jump in and to give you some of that guidance. User-centric design. Absolutely. User tests are the best way to find out if your target audience finds what they need and not looking for as someone may not know what he's looking for. That's the other thing, Robert, that's actually really interesting. I don't always know what my audiences are looking for. That's actually a really important point. There have been a number of times when I've been engaged with a bunch of adults sitting around a room trying to program for teenagers. And the thing that I keep coming back to is, why is a bunch of old fogies like us trying to program for teenagers? We have no idea what they want. It's certainly not what we wanted when we were teenagers. So we've got to bring our audience in. We have to allow them to help craft either the experiences or the publicity, the marketing that is going to be most relevant to them, most meaningful to them. It's going to catch their attention. So absolutely, ask people to look at your site, to look at your logo, to look at your whatever it is, to make sure that it's going to give them what they need, to spark them to search just a little bit farther, to scroll a little bit more. We also have to remember, by the way, that we live in a TikTok world. I'm embarrassed to say I've kind of fallen into the TikTok world. I don't post anything, but I find myself just scrolling through it. But that instant gratification and that constant change it's real. And folks are going to skim through your website. They are not going to read through your website. So, right, I made sure that when you, now this is, I could show you how it's mobile friendly, but it is mobile friendly. By the way, that is super important. But I wanted to make sure that at the very top of the page, the very first thing they see is, what is this? When is it? Who's it for? Where is it? And what do I do? It's right there. They don't even have to scroll at all. Then if they want to go down, they can learn a little bit more about it. They can read more about it, yada, yada, all that other good stuff. But not knowing what people want is not an excuse to not try and give it to them. It's a call for us to listen to create responsive websites, responsive media, responsive marketing that meets the needs of the folks that we're trying to reach. Because if we don't do that, there is no need for them to even bother with us. If we can't give them what they want on a website, how are we ever going to give them what they want when they are paying us money and coming to our experiences and our programs, our services, our classes? This is the first thing that most people will see, whether it's social or website. This digital experience is the first thing, the first time that people are going to experience our community. If we can't give them what they want then, they're not going to go any farther. So this was an aha moment for me. It seems obvious, I know. And I thought I was doing a good job, but it really hit home with this particular website that I was building, that I had these beautiful values that I had thought of that was going to inspire the world. And the truth is, no one cares about that. I care about it. My program cares about it. The staff that I'll hire care about it. And there are a few parents who will care about it. But what do I really need to give my audience? Those 5 W's and an H. What, where, when, why, how, I guess. So I want to invite you. I want to challenge you to look at your temple's website. Look at your church's, your mosque's website. Look at your educational institution's website. Is it giving people what they need? Is your website for you or for your audience? The way that we address that question, I think, is an invitation to the way we craft our organizations as a whole. It's a not an invitation. It's a doorway. It's an insight into how we craft our organizations as a whole. Are our organizations responsive to the needs of our community? That essentially that's what we want to do. At the end of the day, we want to be responsive and meet the needs of our constituents, and that starts in the digital realm. So thanks for listening to me. This was a really important lesson I learned this week, and I'm glad you let me share it with you. That's all I got for you today. If you want to check out some of the website work that I've done, by the way, you can always do that. Go over to TorahTechGuy.com. That's one of the websites. I actually haven't revised that one in a while, so that might need. If you see anything up there that is not forward-facing, that's not audience-focused, let me know, because that one probably needs some updating. If you're building a website, especially in Wix, I'm happy to help. Reach out to me. Let me know how I can be supportive. All right, guys. Robert, so good to see you as always. Everyone, see you soon.